So I notice a lot of what you tell people is a lot of like stuff that like at least superficially and at least where I'd start off talking with people. Again, I'm not an expert, but like again, in my tenure of like digging into this, having therapists on, going to ongoing therapy, having dating coaches on, having countless guests, having these conversations, reading books, and yada yada. It uh, where do you get a lot of this from? Do you do this like do you do the same? Do you try to like be like, I like this podcast, or I heard this and that makes sense, write this note down? Like, what is your process to try and like garner and glean a lot of the actual advice that is at least even the beginning starting points for helping people dependent on like what their situation is? Does that make sense? Did I
Yeah,
frame
yeah,
that
yeah.
question
No, that
correctly?
that makes complete sense. Yeah. So I think a better way to tell this would be to give you a little bit of my backstory. Because
Okay.
as you mentioned, right, like I do come from a single mother like home, right? And that whole thing happened when I was 12 years old, right? Like my dad walked out, all of this stuff happened. We had to kind of find a way to not go homeless. Like, that's where the digital marketing agency came in, et cetera, et cetera. And so throughout that whole process from 12 to 24, I feel like I'm like continuously a work in progress, as I'm sure like everybody else is. But I found myself in a lot of like throughout that process in a lot of highs and lows. And to get myself out of those, I had to try like almost like across the board everything I could find. Right. And some things worked, some things didn't work. Like, sometimes trying meditation, okay, this is not for me, but I can see how this would work for someone else. Right. I know I should be meditating, but why am I not meditating? So I think it's more of like self-reflecting, figuring out what works for me, and then going and reading and like seeing things across the internet that like what's worked for other people. Cause I think from 16 to like sophomore year in college or something like that, I was obsessed with like psychology, right? I would just read everything. I'm
Mm.
by no means a psychologist or anything like that. Have to always throw this in there, but
Bro, you already fooled me, bro. You're here. You already fooled me.
yeah, man. And so I would just dig into everything I could find about like how the human mind works, how the brain works, and all of that was just simply motivated for myself, right? It was all for myself because I wanted to break this generational thing that I was seeing like built up. Like I just didn't want to end up as another iteration of what already exists in like my family, in my culture, all of that stuff. Wanted to break out of it.
Mhm.
So I had to figure out like, okay, if this is all we know, what else is out there that I don't know? And that's like what I used to like kind of frame like what I was looking up, what I was researching, all of that good stuff. And when I come like on the show and stuff, I bring all of that with me. And a lot of the times some of it hits, some of it doesn't, right? Like some of it just isn't like I just don't have enough context. Like I'm a lot of times I'll tell people it's like almost become a meme on my like page. It's like I'll say this is way above my pay grade and people are just
Right,
like
yeah.
they're like, dude, you can't keep saying it's above your pay grade. I'm like, dude, I have to say that. I have to throw that little thing in there because this is probably not like going to be contextually like relevant to this person. And most of the times it still is, but I got to create my safety net right there. So that's
Right.
I
It's
definitely use my
it's like
own.
when you're
Go ahead, go ahead.
it's like when your friends say they give you some advice and then they say, but I don't know though.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the safety
exactly,
net.
exactly, exactly. It's like, but I could be wrong. You know
But
what I
I don't
mean?
know though. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
though.
exactly. So
Do you, man?
I'm actually like what is it called? It became so common on like the Instagram page, which is where I feel like the most like of my community lives, like at least like the most engaged version. And it became so much of a meme that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make merch out of like above my pay grade or something like that. Like, cause you never know. Like I like tried forcing a merch line before and it never hits. It's always like when the audience
Okay.
comes up with like something, right? So
Right.
definitely something I'm gonna look forward to making.